Oh, what do you have there, George?
The Israel test, the latest edition, updated, and still true. And more opportune than ever, and more relevant than ever. And it's being recognized more in this new edition than any previous edition.
In what way do you feel that it's more necessary today?
Well, because colleges all across America are miserably failing their Israel test. And politicians are confused about their Israel test. There's a pervasive desire to tear down people who succeed rather than admire and emulate them. So the Israel test is more important than ever, and the passing the Israel test has greater rewards. I mean, Israel now is more creative and technologically inventive, and its per capita incomes are higher than its. This is for Arabs and Jews in Israel. The per capita incomes are higher than in Germany, UK, Japan, or South Korea. And
but don't those...
It's become, in the economic miracle of the age, in the face of intifada, invasion, murder, hatred, all this siege of horror that Israel has faced. Nonetheless, it has triumphed, and it has passed its Israel test, and has become by ordinary measures, per capita, one of the richest countries in the world. And I think by real measures, I use time prices, the amount of time you got to spend to buy goods and services. And by that measure, Israel may be the richest country in the world. In the desert.
So how does that, do all these achievements or high status compete against the propaganda that the leftist corporate media puts out about its villainy in trying to quell Hamas and the Palestinian irredentist movements?
This is why everyone should read the Israel test. In 1850, before the Jews arrived, and before the big massive immigration to Israel, there were 300,000 Arabs in the Palestine area, and they had average longevity of 35 years, and they were, many of them, Bedouins. This whole idea of displacement is the opposite of the truth. The rather huge magnetism of Jewish achievement in Israel attracted Arabs from all around to partake of the bounty of the blooming desert. And it's the Israelis that made the desert bloom and made it possible for this 4% of the land in the Middle East to sustain the largest and most productive and most inventive economy in the world.
So, on a religious note, are you a practicing Christian?
Yeah, I'm a practicing Christian.
So, do Christians feel somehow threatened by the success of a Jewish state?
I don't think so. I mean, all the Christians I know are pro-Israel. I mean, there may be some fringe cult Christians that resent Israel, but overwhelmingly the evangelical Christians of America are passionate supporters of Israel. They pass their Israel test.
And is it a test essentially?
They appreciate Israel.
Is support for Israel also a test for Christians in terms of, and I use the story of Jacob and his sons, Joseph's brothers.
Yeah. Oh.
Right? That Christians are supposed to not live in resentment and envy and spite.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. And the story of Joseph and his brothers persists. It's a different kind of Israel test. And I think that in general, the Christian community in the United States is the strongest supporter of Israel, more than the Jewish community to some degree.
Yeah. So you must be very disconcerted then to see the continued support for the Democrat Party's policies in the Middle East to promote Iranian hegemony.
It just is appalling what the U.S. Gives billions of dollars, $2 or $3 billion a year to the UN, WRA, the refugee relief organization that actually promotes jihad throughout the Palestinian population and extends these spurious refugees. They aren't really refugees at all. For 4 generations. I mean, it's the UN refugee relief and for the Palestinian, it should be abolished. It's become a jihadist organization, and it's appalling that we support it by billions of dollars a year, American taxpayers. This whole idea that the U.S. has been supporting Israel more than its enemies is misconceived. We actually, over the decades, we've given more money to Canada for Palestinians than for defense of Israel. And Israel now is going to be defending us because Israel, in fact, has consummated the Strategic Defense Initiative that Reagan launched in the 1980s, and for which the Israelis were the first partners, and which has come to fruition in Iron Dome, David Slingshot for intermediate vessels, and now Arrow 3, intercontinental missile defense systems have come from Israel. Raphael, and in conjunction with Raytheon and Boeing for manufacture, but the essential inventions that brought strategic defense to the fore and makes it possible to defend the West is Israel.
So you have good practical reason for the support of Israel, but how can that compete with the emotional appeal of Palestinian, when I say Hamas, evoke casualties for public consumption?
Well, it's wars are nice, and we got too many of them, and there is propensity to revolt against war among the modern people. And this has hurt Israel too. I mean, Israel is under attack and has been. I mean, Israel doesn't want war in the Middle East. It's a passionate opponent, and if it had been willing to fight more quickly and more conclusively in earlier battles, had not been neutralized by
the White House,
and by the two-state solution and all these Trojan horses for jihadists. If that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have had a Hamas attack.
Right.
But Netanyahu is attempting now to actually complete, and it's this war, and they gotta win it, and
But this administration, the Democrat administration, has stacked with Islamists.
yeah, I mean, it's
probably making negotiations.
and Obama was really an Islamist, and it's just it's important to defeat the current Democratic administration, and I think I hope it'll happen.
How much confidence do you have that the election will be integrous? That the election will be fair?
Who knows? I
Yeah.
mean, I can't. I think having most of the ballots mailed in this was not a legitimate way to conduct an election last time. I mean, it may be that there wasn't explicit, demonstrable fraud in the dimensions necessary to convert the states that needed to. Who knows? I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I know that having more than half the votes mailed in without real ID or anything was just an invitation to abuse. And I hope this election,
Yeah.
I gather there's improvements for this election. Let's hope it happens.
Would you like to say anything about your newsletter and what people can get from subscribers?
Well, the Gilder Technology Report, and I'm writing about graphene, which, Jim Tor is the leading graphene innovator in the United States at Rice University. And graphene is the new material that is a single layer of carbon atoms, 200 times stronger than steel, 1,000 times more conductive than copper.
How about heat resistance?
It transmits heat faster than any other material ever studied. It
doesn't get
switches 1,000 times faster. In other words, it switches in the terahertz rather than in the gigahertz as current electronics does. It's a transformative material that's used in every part of the space program, and Jim Tor is the leading pioneer of it, and his 18 companies have emerged from his labs at Rice, and 17 of them are in Israel, because Israel recognized the value of these inventions and had entrepreneurs who wanted to pursue them more than American venture capitalists. So Israel is really in the lead in graphene, which is the most important development in material science. It's a woven of our. It's just an amazing breakthrough that will change all electronics as well.
But then, would it flow that oppressing Israel or sanctioning Israel commercially or financially in trade would hurt the world economy in terms of?
Well, it would hurt it would hurt everybody, and Israel would find markets for its ingenuity and global leadership, and it just always a mistake to protectionism always hurts the country that enforces or pursues it. It's we're currently strengthening the Chinese semiconductor industry, for example, where we've cracked down and sanctioned and protected and tariffed and penalized and litigated against the Chinese semiconductor industry. And the result is the U.S. semiconductor capital equipment industry has lost a third of its business. The markets have shriveled, and China has actually advanced massively in relation to the U.S. and semiconductors. Protectionism doesn't work is a message to remember.
What's the best website that people can come to get involved?
Gilder Technology Report. Gilder's Technology Report. Gilder''S. Gilder's Technology Report. And the Israel test, though, is coming out in a week or something, and it's a new edition with Dennis Prager introductions.
You're proud of it.
Yeah, it's really exciting that it was written in 2004 and it's more relevant. I didn't have to change hardly anything except the strategic defense stuff I put in, then the new Iron Dome triumphs and stuff like that.
Well, thank you. I hope you'll get many new viewers, readers of this story. It's a difficult subject, isn't it, for people to have to put their own egos in check?
Yeah.
In a competitive world where, and especially from like the Arab-Israeli conflict, a Jewish state has always been a subjugated culture. Jews have been subjugated, and Christians have also like to keep Judaism as I would say subjugated, but subdominant with Christians, yeah. and to see Jews or treat Jews on an equal level may be difficult for many Christians.
Yes, I don't know. I think that Christians understand it pretty well. That it's the left, which the kind of atheist left, yeah, that is the chief enemy of Israel. They couldn't. Israel almost went bust in 1985.
Is that right?
I mean, it's 1,000% inflation. Socialist experiment in Israel failed. And Netanyahu came in, and 1 million immigrants from Russia came in. And together they built the new Israel that now leads the world in technology and one of the leaders in real per capita income. And it's a miracle achievement that really came at a time of dire peril for Israel.
And yet,
and that failure of socialism, the socialist dream in Israel failed, and the entrepreneurial dream prevailed, and that reality is hard for many leftists to accept.
Was it capitalism that essentially drove the market in Israel to succeed?
It was. I mean, it was, capitalism is the market. That's what, I've got a new book called Life After Capitalism, which is the information theory of economics, and it's really, people don't understand the old models of capitalism that failed, I think, to a great extent, and it's
but with socialism,
human creativity. Now, wealth is knowledge, growth is learning.
Learning is growth.
Learning curves. With every doubling of total units sold, costs drop by between 20 and 30%. That's the learning curve, and Israel generates learning curves with creativity and power that no other country does.
So the notions that the Democrats are trying to make America more equitable, as they say, is a socialist agenda. What would that mean for American prosperity?
Well, it would be catastrophic. The Israel test explains that the world is dependent on a tiny minority of creative peoples. Jews are are less than 1.4% of the world's population. They're 7 of the top richest people in the world. They run half the leading companies. They win half the Nobel Prizes. They animate all our civilizations. They inspire our leading religions. And if you envy and try to tear down successful people, you're going to be anti-Semitic, and you're going to end up destroying civilization.
Not just America.
Not just America. No, Israel is a world leader, and it's a religious leader. We know everybody sort of is conscious of that role, but it's really the world technology leader also, and this is really paramount in the current struggle we face. Without Israel, American companies like Intel, our leading semiconductor company, Google, Microsoft, all these companies would be vastly smaller and less influential. I mean, Intel wouldn't even exist. It survived in the early years because of the inventions by Dov Froman, an Israeli who invented non-volatile memories, and he started up the Intel wafer fab, first in Jerusalem, and then moved it to Kiryat Gat, and it's the most advanced wafer fab facility for Intel, and many of Intel's microprocessors were designed at its Israel design centers, and it just Israel has a vital role in the U.S. economy that's more important than the U.S. role in the Israeli economy, I believe. I mean, that's something you can read about in the Israel test.
Well, how likely do you think it'll be to overcome the propaganda campaign, the malignant defamation?
There's stupid people, smart people understand. I mean, I think there's too much stress on that. I mean, that these protests, people with rings in their noses and on the streets and throwing excremented paintings and museums. I mean, this is not a movement that's going to succeed.
Let's hope.
It's not going to succeed. If this kind of movement succeeds, the human civilization will go into a new dark age. There's no question about that. I mean, that's what's at stake.
Very profound.
I hope we can solve the Israel test. I'll
put the link in.
It has a shot at really having its real publication now. I mean, the first 2 editions did well, and they had an impact, but this one's got coverage and reviews and enthusiastic acceptance that Prager is a symbol of it. I mean, he's really supporting it. Thank you so much.